Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome yet again to this episode of Smart Means Business, Business Insight. We get to talk about a couple of things that are trending, a couple of things that are really pertinent, but also cohesively we get to bring in different stakeholders and different knowledgeable people who give us insight into what is happening. Now remember, over the last couple of months and weeks, we've been talking about agriculture. We've been looking at the budgetary allocations, but also the connection to exports. Why are we having rejections? What is happening? Are the farmers down on ground aware? Today we are going to take a different perspective. We want this gentleman here to give us a little bit of insight. And today with us we have Mr. Robert Gulova, who is the Program Officer for Agroecology and Sustainable Natural Resources Management Department at PELUM, Uganda. PELUM stands for Participatory Ecological Land Use Management Uganda chapter. You're welcome, Mr. Robert.
Thank you so much, Doreen.
It's always a delight to have you.
A pleasure to be here.
Now, our topic today is agroecology. Is it a necessity for the future? Are these just jargons? Are they words? We want Robert to let us know what is it exactly. We've had so many things: sustainable farming, we've had regenerative farming. Now, recently, there's a wave of agroecology. What is this all about, and how does it apply to the Ugandan farmer?
Okay, thank you so much, Doreen. And to start with, let us understand sustainability. And when we talk about sustainability, we are saying the ability to maintain or support a process for a longer period of time. And now when we are talking about farming, we all know that man survives on food, okay? But are we really thinking about the future generation? That's where sustainability comes in. We need to see that whatever way we are doing farming is sustainable. We are not spoiling the soils. We are leaving the ecosystem intact. Because right now, as we are talking about the many terminologies, we are talking about agroecology, sustainable farming, organic agriculture, regenerative agriculture. They are coming to solve a challenge. When we go back to the story of creation, we know that God created the systems. Yeah. We have the solar system. When you look at farming itself, it has to be a system. So we have to work with the system other than working against the system. I will give an example. When you plant a seed, it grows into a plant. This plant bears a flower, the flower bears a fruit, and the fruit bears a seed. And this seed goes back to the soil, and that is a system, and that system is sustainable in that you don't have to go again and buy seed separate, but you continue the system, seed to seed to seed to seed, and the future generations will come. But before I come to that, the population of the world is increasing on a daily basis.
Yes.
And the question we have, how do we feed this growing population? Remember, the farming we are talking about is dependent on one static resource, and that is land. If my great-grandfather had 10 acres of land and gave birth maybe to 5 sons, they divided that land.
Yeah.
By the time we are speaking now, land is declining, land is decreasing on a daily basis. But remember, the population is increasing on a daily basis. And yet, this population has to eat. So the question comes, how do we feed this growing population? So to run backwards, we came together and said, if we are going to feed the growing population, we must come up with innovations on how to produce food. This is when we began now introducing pesticides. Is when we began introducing chemical fertilizers, is when we introduced what we are calling the high-yielding varieties.
Yes.
And these varieties were basically rice, maize, and wheat. And it's the reason as to why wherever you go, you will find this food.
And beans and groundnuts, literally
No.
everything, and soya bean. Right now, actually, as we talk about these particular varieties, you have mentioned around 3-4 koas. Maybe they could be the koas.
These are the ones that were introduced
That were
in the 1960s.
But from as way back as I can remember, they had already started introducing those beans. Is it narrow one? There is what? There is, okay, I will not
like
get...
50 years ago?
No, not 50 years ago. But I know for sure, right now, you cannot, it's very difficult to find the original crop, whether it is beans, whether seed, whether it is beans, whether it is groundnuts, whether it is soya bean, it is very difficult to find the original.
It is very difficult, but it is there.
Yes, it is there, but they are not there. If they are there, they are too expensive. And these are stories that come in. If they are there, they are too expensive. Even if they are too expensive, we have women in Soroti, and this was some news coming in, that she literally was getting that old, the old variety, that the traditional one, she was getting it from Tanzania in containers, but whenever she would bring it to Soroti, it would be sold out just in a couple of hours.
The original one?
The original one, because it makes the best OD. You see, it makes the best OD, but you can't find it. But what is there is those fat groundnuts that they say, okay, they are there, they are cheaper, almost by 500 shillings, but they don't like them. Okay,
because when we come to that point is another question that we normally ask ourselves. When we talk about food security and nutrition, what comes to your mind? Is it just quantity of food? Is it the quality of food? Or it is both?
Food security?
Yes. So that's where the confusion sometimes is. Most of us think that food security is quantity.
Is quantity.
Is for you to eat posho in large quantities.
Yes, and have it, by the way, at all times. If it's
at all times, yes. Yeah. But we are not minding about the quality. That's the challenge we have. So we have seen a number of challenges that have come as a result of this kind of farming. Right now, we see that we have a rise in the non-communicable diseases. You know, cancer is on the rise, diabetes is on the rise, stroke, heart diseases. And remember, previously, these were diseases for the old and the rich. If you had cancer, you were either rich or very old. If you had diabetes, you were either old or very rich. And today, it doesn't disaggregate. Whether you're young, whether you're poor, whether you're rich, whether you're old, we are all affected.
By the way, talk about that. That is true.
Yes.
That is very true.
And now that's where we have come to ask ourselves, where is the problem? We are still looking for the answers. We are not yet sure.
Yeah.
But now when you look at some theories that talk about cancer, cancer comes as a result of mutation. And now you ask yourself, what is causing the mutation? And somebody says the mutation is coming as a result of chemicals.
Yes, either you're ingesting, you're eating them,
yes,
or you're exposed to them.
Exactly. So when it comes to the issue of chemicals, then we come to agriculture. How are we doing our farming? We are using lots of chemicals. Yeah. That's why now you hear these many terminologies. Sustainable agriculture, agroecology. We are looking at organic agriculture. It's because most of these terminologies and most of these farming practices, they look at how do you sustain farming, how do you make sure you have a holistic ecosystem. And here we are now looking at systems-wide thinking. Like I said previously that God created the systems. So if you have systems in place, you are able to produce safe food without using chemicals. Yeah. When you introduce chemicals, I would give an example. You're fighting against pests. But if you're fighting against, for example, aphids on cabbages, and you apply a toxic chemical, this chemical won't spare the bees.
No, it won't.
The bees will die. But also these chemicals will also kill what brings back the nutrients to the soil. The termites, the dung beetles. When you use the chemicals for managing tomatoes, they will also kill the fungi in the soils. So
let me get this straight. Yes. What you are saying is that all these terminologies, whether it is sustainable farming or it's regenerative agriculture or it is organic farming or it is agroecology, the basics or the basis for them, the principles that occur in all these is the fact that one, you're looking at food security, you're looking at improving
Food safety.
Yeah, you're looking at food security, you're looking at food safety as and what else are you looking at? You're looking at ensuring that the environment is safe as well.
Yeah, you're looking at sustainability.
Sustainability.
Yes, because if you spoil the land, like I said, the land is decreasing every day. But if you are using practices that are going to spoil the land, that means the future generation will find the soils when they can't give you food. You have seen scenarios whereby farmers say, we used to plant and things used to grow by themselves.
Changed, yes.
But now, if you don't put fertilizer,
nothing
you can't
comes
earn.
up.
If you don't spray using chemicals, nothing comes up. It means the system has been broken. Because if you look at a plant, if the leaves drop, those leaves are going to decompose to release the nutrients. But who's releasing the nutrients? It is the microorganisms and microbiology. You have the termites, you have the earthworms, then you have the fungi and the bacteria that is now going to work on this plant and animal tissue to release the nutrients back to soil.
Yeah.
But if we come and use the chemicals, we now kill these micro and macroorganisms and we break the system.
Yes.
So that means the nutrients that would be recycled back into the soil, we don't have the process to support this process.
But let's get down to this, even as we talk about all these wonderful principles and wonderful approaches. How prepared are Ugandan farmers for this? Are they really taking it up? Because we get to see quite a lot of sporadic efforts from agencies, and all of them seem to want to attack some of these areas.
Yes.
They come up, but when you find it, you find just a few sub-counties are done in the northern region, a few, 1 or 2 districts down there. What is happening? Why isn't there a coordinated effort to ensure that if at all these things, these principles, these approaches have been tried out in different countries and they've worked marvelously, and we know they can look at those particular areas, conservation or restoration of the environment, food security, food safety, why isn't it being rolled out all over Uganda in an organized manner?
I think
it seems like it seems like you're going to be a sacrifice, a sacrifice for all the others, but that is not the intention. Just give us a hint. We don't want to matters day past.
Yeah, okay.
Matters day past.
I'm looking at how I should respond to this, but one, everybody is hungry for wealth. Everybody is hungry to be rich. And now, if you look at a farmer, even a farmer in the community is hungry for wealth. So if anybody comes and tells the farmer, this is what works, even if the farmer has it, because the farmer doesn't know what he's going to do. So the farmer will jump onto that, okay?
Yes.
But like I said, all these terminologies, we have the same principles. Because, for example, if you talk about organic agriculture, and organic agriculture says you have to mulch. Organic agriculture says don't use toxic chemicals. Agriculture will also say don't use toxic chemicals because you have to leave the ecosystem intact. Regenerative agriculture. Regenerative, the word regenerative, it means you're reviving. You're restoring. And this regenerative comes in a sense that we have spoiled.
Yes.
The way we have been doing farming for so many years, we are realizing that now climate change is on the rise. You see?
Yes.
We have put down the forests. Somebody thinks that for them to get money, they must grow a single crop. And you put down all the trees. So after realizing that what we have been doing previously
is not working,
it has done more harm than good.
Yes.
Then we said we need to regenerate.
Yeah.
And that's where regenerative farming is coming from. But remember now, if you talk about regeneration and regenerative agriculture, then it means we bring in the practices, we bring the principles that are going to support the system to now come back. And when you talk about most of these terminologies, the principles are more or less the same. The things that differentiate them are really minor. But the core principles, like we talked about food security, food safety, making sure that the ecosystem is intact, they are the same.
They are all the same.
Yes.
Let me actually rephrase this. We know how great this can work out for Ugandans. One, because there's a lot of worry,
Yes.
obviously, over the incidents, the presence of pesticides and insecticides and all that. Right now, we are in an era where more and more Ugandans are getting back to how things used to be before all this stuff came in. Whether it is nutrition, we want organic stuff to eat. One, because we don't want to get in touch with, to contract, cancer and all these different things. We don't want to get these diseases. Yes. But also because we know there is quite a heavy bill that is given to us because of lifestyle diseases. We're also very careful on what we eat right now. But do you think it is feasible in our poverty-ridden Uganda, given that around 70% or 68 to 70% of Ugandans are within agriculture, but we also have a huge percentage that is still under poverty, in the shackles, literally, of poverty. And now, even when we get to that, not only are we looking at some of the issues that are coming up, like I've said, but the country, Uganda, has more than 3.5 million family farms, and many of its smallholder farmers are among the most poor people in the world. Do you understand the implication of that? Yes. We have quite a huge, more than 3.5 million farmers, family farms. Yes. But also these same family farms are among the poorest in the world. So we have cyclical poverty going on and on. How prepared is the Ugandan to adopt some of these wonderful approaches? Will they bring the person money? Because at the end of the day, sometimes it comes down to the money.
Okay, to answer that quickly, I will say Ugandan farmers are prepared.
Ugandan farmers?
Are prepared.
In which regions? Are you speaking for all?
All regions. But I want to expound on what you're talking about, like most of the farmers are poor. And we need also to understand what have these farmers been doing. Like I said, since the 1960s, and also from school, we are taught to do specialization, okay? You are told that if you want to get money from farming, you need to grow a single crop. You need to grow maize alone. And in this climate change era, you will grow maize and the rains will disappear after 1 month. And what happens? The farmer gets zero harvest.
First, wait, Robert. As far as I know, there is still quite a lot of intercropping going on in the rural places. No, we're not talking even about the commercial farmers. We know for sure that the moment you put in your maize, you must have some beans, which you will harvest faster than the maize. I think that's how it has been going on, and it's still being done.
And that is what we are preaching. That's what we are telling the farmers to do. But if you look at because when you talk about poverty and commercial farming, this is what most people think. That if you're going to do commercial farming, you need to open up a very big piece of land and grow a single crop. Yeah. And I wanted to bring an example of my region, the Busoga region. When you come to the Busoga region, you find that most farmers, even the small land they have, they will decide to grow sugar canes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So when they decide to grow the sugar cane, it means you're growing a single crop. And what happens? If the prices of the sugar cane goes down, because many people, now that demand and supply, the supply is high, and it's just one person who's buying the sugar cane, then they get less money. Yeah. But now when you look at agroecology, we are talking about diversity. We are talking about diversification. And it also comes from the story of creation. God created a diversity of plants and animals in the Garden of Eden. So if you diversify your farm, you have animals, you have fruit trees, you have many crops. If one fails, you're able to
rely on the other.
So this poverty that we are talking about, it has come as a result of what we have been doing previously. And also, I normally ask a question on what is saving to you. Is it you growing maize on a large scale, selling all the maize, getting the money, and again start buying food? Or it is you diverse?
And that is what is happening.
Yes, that is what is happening. That's why when you say we are doing intercropping, people have been doing intercropping, very few people
Yes.
Because when you talk about poverty and commercial farming, what comes to our minds is money.
Yeah.
How do I get money here? But people forget that if you grow maize alone, then you sell maize alone, that money you have got from maize, you will buy food,
Yes.
you will buy medical care.
Yeah, you cannot just remain on one.
Exactly. But if you diversify, then you're sure you have food. So that means you're saving money that you would have used to buy the food.
Yes.
But also if you're eating well, you're having a diversity of food, then you'll stay healthy.
Yes,
You
there's
will
a
not
very
have to now begin paying money for the illnesses that are coming because of poor nutrition. So, as we are here right now, we want to shift from the use of the chemicals. And it's good in your introduction, you also talked about the rejection of our products.
Yeah.
Is the question that I will normally ask, who makes these inorganic fertilizers and pesticides? It is the Western world.
Yeah.
Who is rejecting the food that has the pesticides and the inorganic fertilizers? It's the Western world. So the question is, as Ugandan farmers, if somebody makes for you fertilizers and chemicals to grow your food, but you cannot sell this food to this same person,
Yes.
don't you put there a question mark? Why?
Surely.
Yeah.
And this is why we're having this conversation, Robert, because you actually preempted. Whereas we talked about the introduction and we talked about why we are looking at these ways and approaches of farming.
Yes.
It is because in reality we've been talking about agriculture in the last couple of weeks, but also export inclined
Yes.
agriculture.
Yes.
But also, let me just give you a sneak peek. At least 80% of the country's fruits and vegetables which are produced for export are rejected. And we've had an increase. Some of them are rejected mainly because of the quality, but we have also a sizable or differences in compliance. But then we also have quite a sizable amount of this fresh produce being rejected because of the presence of pesticides.
Yes.
Now, even as you ask that good, wonderful question, if they are rejecting them from that side, why is it that we are accepting some of these synthetic fertilizers and these pesticides and all this from the same people who are rejecting? Why is it that we are? Why is it there is a double standard?
Okay, like I said, everyone is hungry for wealth.
We go back now to that.
Yes.
Yes.
So when you use the inorganic fertilizers, the truth is they work fast. If you applied NPK in your garden, it will work fast, but that is not long term. That is why we are looking at sustainability. Are you looking at the long term, or you're just looking at the benefits you're having right now?
Immediately, in short
yes,
term.
in short term. So if you put the fertilizers in your soil, the beans will grow very fast, everything will grow very well like that. But in the long run, we are
Organisms, wonderful organisms are killed.
dead. The pests, the chemicals in form of herbicides, pesticides, we are also consuming them.
Yeah.
Then we are ingesting chemicals. Then we are having the non-communicable diseases. Then we say, after all, I've gotten the money from growing tomatoes. Then tomorrow your lifespan has reduced, and you're also spending money now in the hospital because you've developed so many diseases. And anybody who comes and says, if you do this, you will get money very fast.
Be very, very particular about that person. The farmers, if there is anyone who is coming to you saying that use this wonderful fertilizer or something like this, you'll get quick returns in 2 months instead of 3 months.
And that's the gospel in the community.
That is what is being preached out there.
Yes, that's why even if you told farmers, this thing is good in the short run,
Yes.
but it's dangerous in the long run.
Yes.
They will say, after all,
We are going to die.
Yes. After all, we shall die. The Bible says, from soil we come, to soil we go. Are you seeing that? But now...
But no. Let's ruminate. Let's ruminate on that. This topic this conversation is not going to die. Yes. Let's just take a quick break and we'll be right back after this message.
Smart 24, driving business.
Man vs. Wife is a cooking competition where we provide the food and the recipes and they get to cook. Guess the holy judges, man who binds the two of them, a son to a man, a husband to a wife.
Definitely, I'm going to win.
Are you sure?
I try to balance because I don't have issues after this show.
Nzikirizibwa okugamba nti byonna bimpomedde ng'osoose kubirya ate ng'olidde ku alaali onaba bwanguti.
Man vs. Wife.
Are you a female business owner in Uganda looking to grow and transform your business? Grow empowers you with access to entrepreneur services, accelerating your business growth from micro to small and from small to medium enterprises. Grow provides comprehensive support, including training, startup tools, business formalization, certification, networking opportunities, access to affordable credit and grants, coaching, and mentorship, with all resources available for free. For more information, please visit grow.go.ug. Contact the PSFU Grow officers at Trust Towers, ground floor, plot 4 Chadondo Road, Nakasero, or the Ministry of Gender at plot 2 George Street, Simba Manyo House, 3rd floor. Call us at +256 394 514 071. This message is brought to you by the Grow Project, a Government of Uganda project implemented by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development and PSFU, funded by the World Bank. Grow, generating growth opportunities and productivity for women enterprises.
Amanya gange nze Namutebi Sharon nga nkolera wano wennyini Saka Kirombe oba Makindye. Empangula gye nawanguddemu ssente mbadde nga nkozesa mobile money nga nsindika school fees w'omwana ku ssomero. Okutegeera nti mpangudde, nze mutima neegambye nti kambalinde bamale okujja ndyoke nzikirize nti mpangudde. Kyennyinza okubagamba nti si byabafere, weewaawo abafere gye bali, naye ennamba eri emu yokka era bw'eba ekukubidde omanye eyo si yabafere. Mpulira bulungi nnyo 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 era ndi musanyufu nnyo. Naye MTN mobile money mbebaza nnyo, mwebale nnyo, mwebalire.
Together, we're unstoppable.
Luxury redefined at CSAN Hotel has you endowed in the splendor of elegant living, fit for the royalty that you are. Step into comfort, pampering and blissful customer-centric service as you select from our range of comfy, exquisite living quarters furnished to meet with your royal preference. Surrounded by scenic beauty, our tropical setting allows you to escape the glamorous ordeal of city life. Our ambient green gardens will guide you to a place of revitalizing rest. The 3-star restaurant caters to your palate, serving your choice menu ranging from exotic cuisines to local delicacies. Our chefs will serve you full-course meals for a truly out-of-this-world culinary experience. Our fully stocked bar to whet your throat, from renowned global brand whisks, brandies, gins, beers and wines to our locally celebrated beverages, you will not lack for any brewage. It's an all-new experience in the East at CSAN Hotel. So visit today at plot 15 to 19 Spire Road, Ginger, or contact us on +256 751 719 960 and +256 785 354 614 for reservations. CSAN Hotels, luxury redefined.
Smart 24, driving business.
from the break. We are still having insight, and with us is Mr. Robert Guloba, Program Officer for the Agroecology and Sustainable Natural Resources Management Department under Pelum, Uganda. We are still talking about agroecology. Is it a necessity for the future? He is trying to let us know. We are trying to find linkages as well to not only just farming per se for the Ugandan farmers who constitute quite a huge percent of the population, but we're also looking at the connection to some of the rejections that have been on the increase for our fresh produce exports from Uganda. You were still talking, Robert, about the fact that most farmers are ignoring some of the repercussions, long-term repercussions, because they need so much money. They need the money to come in. Yes. So if someone is coming and saying this, you're supposed to harvest this particular crop in 3 months, and someone comes up with a wonder, not a wonder drug, but a wonder fertilizer, a wonder pesticide,
a wonder variety,
a wonder everything.
And he says, if you grow this variety in 3 weeks, you're going to get the money. They will jump onto that. I would give you a quick example. You eat chicken.
Yes.
If I gave you a local chicken of 6 weeks, would you eat it?
Of 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Local?
Local.
That is still a baby.
It's still a baby.
It's still a chick.
If I brought a broiler of 6 weeks, would you eat it?
It depends on how it's presented. But you see, don't get me in a spot, because it depends, really. Some of these things we don't get to know. It can pass on. There is no label on those chicken. The thing has been marinated, it has been roasted. So how do you know?
But you even go to the store and buy.
No, we're not talking about the live one. We're talking about the one that has been grilled nicely. There you can't know.
You can't know. It's the same thing when we talk about food. The question that normally comes, you're telling me I should eat tomatoes without chemicals. But if I go to the store, how will I know?
Yes.
It is very hard. And that's why the process matters. You must understand the process. How was this tomato produced? It is the same thing with the chicken. You must know this chicken that I'm eating, how was it raised? How old is it? Has it gotten the growth hormones that make it to grow very fast? So when you eat these growth hormones, what happens to you? You also grow very fast.
That's true.
So when you give the chicken and the ingredients to make it grow fat, and you also eat the same chicken, what happens? And maybe I wouldn't be this size, but because the chicken I'm eating.
We're not talking about your size now. But the reality about it is that there have been reports about this HIV drugs being found in chicken recently. They've also talked about the different relations, the different relationships between cancer and
some herbicides. Then lots of chemicals in vegetables on the market. I think media has talked about these things, but the underlying fact is that we are all looking for money, and anything that brings money very fast, people will jump on it. And that's why for us we come and say, when you do agroecology, you have the consumer at heart, because you want them to eat healthy food. You have the farmer himself at heart, because before even consumer gets this food that is intoxicated with chemicals, these chemicals begin with the farmer. So it is something that we need now to talk about and create awareness and the sensitization. You've been asking what is the short term. So the short term would be, we need to create massive awareness that people need to eat healthy food. You see, the president of FAO once said that there is no food security without food safety. So food safety first. Once food is safe, then we can say we are food secure.
Robert, I'm looking at you with just a slitty eye on one side, because I'm just imagining this sensitization. You're talking about this sensitization, getting to talk about, can you use more organic fertilizers? Can you use more organic pesticides? Yes, that's the right word.
Yes.
And all this, but I also get to know that some of the state organizations are still handing out some of these things free of charge, not organic, but synthetic. Yes, so this is a clash. Imagine if you get out there and the whole agriculture, maybe an arm of the national agriculture. This is a maybe. Yes, and we put, of course, a disclaimer out there, but we know that some of these fertilizers are being given to farmers to boost their yields.
Yes.
Now, you're also coming in the same locality, in the same environment, saying, by the way, stop using those and ditch them, actually, and go over and get a smaller return from organic farmers. Why is this that there is such a disconnect? Even before we talk about short-term or long-term, why is it that there's such a disconnect? Don't you agencies liaise with the, aren't you working under the Ministry of Agriculture? Don't you have a coordinated?
Yes, we are. And I would start by saying that sometimes we don't know. That's the truth. You see, when you talk to most of the legislators in Parliament, they might not know most of these things. And that's why right now, and if you're growing this maize variety, you must apply fertilizers for you to get. And it's one thing that agroecology comes and says the farmer is an expert. And we have to work with farmers and researchers. If the problem is yield, and if the problem is a pest, then how can we work with researchers to solve this problem? The farmer has knowledge, the researcher has knowledge. Can we integrate and come up with a solution? But what has been the norm is researchers do their work,
yes,
then they come and impose to the farmer. But agroecology is saying, let's integrate. Let's have the farmer knowledge, let's also have the researcher. So you sit on the same table and say, the farmer has been doing this before these things came. So then the scientists say, I will go to the lab and test what is making this work. Then we have an innovation that is going to support us when it doesn't destroy the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think what we like about this is it's almost like a multi-pronged approach.
Yes.
And we're talking about its particular outcomes. Because now we're not looking only just about restoring really the environment. This is really something big because we know we have spoken to farmers and they will tell you this is a place where I used to get at least 5 bags. But now if I am even lucky, I'll get 1.5 bags. That means there's a problem. So if you have all these different approaches being able to restore, then we know that at least we can have food security, elimination of poverty.
Yes.
In that the yields will be good. Now, the next thing is, of course, the food security, but also concerned is the food safety, the implications on our health per se, as well as the exports, which is really fundamental. Because we are pushing as many farmers as possible. There is a preaching of this. It's a sermon. Getting all these farmers to rally behind and come and plant things for exports. What do you think is the way forward, short term and long term? What is the way forward? You've already mentioned sensitization.
Yeah, I'll also start from sensitization, that we don't have to sensitize the farmers, but we sensitize the consumers. Like right now, if our products are rejected because of the residues from fertilizers and pesticides and fungicides, then what is the producer going to do? They are going to stop putting these things. So, other than looking at the export market, let's come now to the local market. If Doreen, you say, I will not eat tomatoes that have been produced using chemicals, the producer will change and say, I'm going to produce these tomatoes for Doreen without chemicals. So the short term would be for the consumers to know. I will tell you, the consumers don't know.
They don't know.
Like even yourself, you said, if I have chicken on the plate, that is it.
Yes.
You do not know.
Yes.
But if you begin demanding, how is this chicken? People will be cautious and say, Doreen wants this chicken, and that's what they will bring. But in the long run or long term, I would say we need to work with the government, because sometimes the government is bigger than everybody here. If the government woke up one day and said, we are bringing GMOs, nobody will refuse. But you see, the civil society has worked with the government. We have the biotechnology bill. The president has not yet signed it. It's because now the civil society has tried to inform the parliamentarians and the president.
I remember there was an outcry about, GMOs, and the way Uganda is actually coming out and saying we don't want those things.
Yes.
Yes.
And that is sensitization of the consumer who is saying, I don't want GMOs. So it's the same thing. I don't want to talk about GMOs here right now, but the point is we need to work with the government. Like you said, don't you work with MAIF? Even MAIF needs to also understand what is happening. Sometimes we work with MAIF, but MAIF has so many departments. One department is promoting this, the other department is promoting the other. I don't want to be political on this, but I would give an example of the uncoordinated authorities in Uganda. NEMA says, don't use wetlands. Uganda Investment Authority comes and says, this is an investor, you're going to the wetland.
Yes.
So I think it's a general challenge in Uganda. So just look at two big authorities, they are contradicting. It's the same thing that now comes
and the people who are being evicted have all this proof, by the way. It is so timely. Your example, Robert, is so timely because that comes into play right now. But you mentioned something just a couple of minutes back.
Yes.
You mentioned that sometimes the farmer wants money. And you said it even categorically, we want money. Do you think that sometimes there is, that the government is maybe compromised, or let us even say some of the agencies or some of the people that are carrying out some of these sensitizations and all that are compromised such that they do not seem to care. They will only look at one particular area, and the person who brings the money and says, if you preach pesticides, yes, artificial this and that, and artificial inorganic fertilizers, you stand to benefit. Is that what is fueling?
I wouldn't say it is what is fueling, but maybe to some extent. Because I would give an example. For most people who have gotten scholarships to go and study abroad, there is a condition they give you. Whatever you have studied,
come back
and do it. So just imagine if I went to Australia and I'm studying on how to use NPK and these pesticides, and I have done a master's and I have come up with an innovation. When I come back here, there is no way you will tell me to not do it. I will preach the same gospel because, one, I have benefited. And also it's one thing that we normally talk about, that we need more money for research in
Yes.
sustainable farming.
Yeah.
When you look at the research that is being conducted,
It is geared towards the other side.
exactly. That is why
Oh, yes.
if we had another person here, they would begin asking me, where is the research conducted? And we have limited research. That is why we are trying as much as possible now to show evidence. You do research and say, if you do ABC, this is what comes. And I normally do what we call, if you're doing agroecology, you do the true cost accounting as versus to cost benefit analysis. So when you look at true cost accounting, you have your 1 acre, you have animals, you have trees, but you're also trying to do farming on that same acre. As compared to somebody who is now doing a monocrop of maize on 1 acre. Then you sit down and say, how much would you get from an acre of maize versus how much will I get from 1 acre that has jackfruits, has avocado, has some mangoes, I have a few goats somewhere, but I have planned because agroecology is trying to mimic nature. You mimic a forest. A forest, nobody puts fertilizer. A forest, nobody puts pesticides. But things are growing in there. And they are growing because the systems are in touch. They are growing because most of these systems, recycling and everything, they're in the forest. So when we look at agroecology, it comes in 3 dimensions. And the first dimension, it is a science. We are going to do research and provide evidence that it works. The second dimension, it is an art. When we talk about an art, we are now going to redesign our farms to mimic nature. That you bring in now the principles of diversity, you talk about synergy, you talk about recycling. So resilience.
As it used to be.
As it used to be long time ago. So because we have spoiled, we are now trying to regenerate, we have to redesign these systems. But the other dimension, agroecology is a movement, whereby I can't do it alone, you can't do it alone. We have to come together and create policies that are going to enable that enabling environment to say that when Robert is here and is talking about agroecology, let nobody pinpoint and say, you understand that?
Let me bring back something, accountability. Let me rephrase it in a different way. Right now, heads are rolling because of accountability. Let's also bring it back here. You mentioned something about the saga that is ongoing. When you are able to pick out, just from the little bit of research that you carry out, even though it is not so much, but it has a lot of potential, and you've been able to have a couple of findings, is it shared with MAIF? Is it shared with some of these governmental, entities, so that they can be rapid? Maybe you can be able to sit down and say, you know what? Let us halt on ABCD. Let us stop ABCD. Let us have the extension farmers involved. I also know for sure that every organization that goes into any particular district is supposed to introduce itself
at the
out of
level.
courtesy. Yes. Now your department is under agriculture. That is where you go.
Yes.
That means at any one time you're getting to see the agriculture officer, you're getting maybe to have connections with the extension workers and all that. Aren't they able to be trained to pick up on a couple of things so that they know what is happening? Or you find them in the field and you never meet them?
We are working with MAIF. And I would want to say that the National Organic Agriculture Policy is under MAIF.
Yeah.
Right now, civil society, Pelam Uganda, and other member organizations are working with MAIF. And very soon I think we shall have what we call the National Agroecology Strategy. And this strategy is now basically looking at how do we upscale agroecology in the entire country. So the government has come on board.
Yeah.
Yes, so I wouldn't say that we are working in isolation and we are not working with MAIF. We are working hand in hand with MAIF. And as we speak now, NOAP is MAIF's document, right?
Yes.
When we talk about the National Agroecology Strategy, it's also MAIF that is spearheading it. So already the agroecology is there in MAIF.
What about the ecological zones? Are they part of this?
Yes.
They are part of this?
They are part of this. Whenever we are having any sort of engagement, most of the society, actually stakeholders come together. Government, civil society, private sector, we come together because like the strategy is not a one man's job. It is a job by different
many
stakeholders,
partners.
so many partners, and they came up with the strategy. And once the final version is out, we shall begin implementation, and everybody will be going agroecology.
You're very positive. We have had, we love at Smart 24 TV, we love to have comparisons.
Yes.
For the better, really. We have been looking at countries such as Tanzania. Yes, countries that say we are going to do this, and you find out it is uniformly implemented right from the head to the bottom. There is one word being preached. When you come down to besides us, Rwanda has the same approach as well.
Yes.
It may be militaristic, whatever it is, we don't want to get into that for now, but we know if it is French beans, you will know that this is a French bean area. They are perfect about it, whether it is organic, it is labeled, whether it is inorganic as well. But we also know in our Uganda here, and we are not harsh on Uganda because they tell you enemies start at home, but we are not harsh for a reason. We know for sure that 80%, 70%, 68 to 70 of Ugandan population is involved in agriculture.
Yes.
We also know for sure that the majority of Ugandans are taking just 1 meal a day, okay? Because they are selling off one, the yields are not that great, but also they are selling off the bulk, like you talked about,
yes.
planting one crop. We also know for sure that quite a huge percent, even coming up to 80% of our country's fruits and vegetables are being rejected because of the presence of pesticides. I want you to round it up, really. Give us a cure. Give us just a cure that will work, that you know for sure will work. If it were you, how would you approach this in the most effective way possible to enable our smallholder, our small-scale farmers down there to be able to adopt this as quickly as possible? You've said you are working with Mayif. You have said you are meeting them in their offices in those districts. But if it were you, how would you carry this out in the most effective way possible as we round up?
Okay. Thanks so much, Doreen. It's kind of a tough question, but I'll try.
Make it simple.
So, I said, we have to do sustainable farming, and we have to go agroecology. But truth be told, most of us believe by seeing. If I just came and I told you, Doreen, do ABC, you won't do it. So the best way I would approach to this is, if we are working with Mayif and other civil society organizations, let's put their demonstration farms. That somebody will come on 1 acre and see diversity of plants and animals. And I will tell you that most of these plants are not going to fruit at the same time. Then I will tell you a story. This month I was eating jackfruit. When jackfruit got finished, I resorted to avocado. When the avocado got finished, the mangoes were on. And once you see this, and you're like, okay, for you're growing maize alone on your farm.
Yeah.
And after you sow the maize, and you eat a single meal because you don't have food. But for me, I have a diversity. So as I have this diversity, and you've come to my farm and you have seen it, it is easy for you to pick a leaf and replicate the same. But where we go and start talking without showing, it is very hard for people to do that. So in just one statement, I would say civil society, partners, stakeholders, and the government, we need to set up demonstration farms where somebody comes and sees and says, oh, agroecology works.
Agroecology.
Yes.
And on that note, we hope that the farmers out there are able to listen to this and please pick a leaf. If there is no particular way in which this has been absorbed and you haven't understood, please reach out to us. Get onto our social media handles and let us know. Different pages, by the way, Smart 24 TV, and then we also have Smart 24 TV official via YouTube, via Facebook. Get in touch with us and let us know what you think about some of these topics. Today we've been talking about agroecology. Is it a necessity for the future? Is it what will work for food security, food safety, as well as curbing down the export rejections of Uganda's fresh fish produce? Yes. And to help us and give us insight, we've had Mr. Robert Guloba, Program Officer for Agroecology and Sustainable Natural Resources Management Department under Pelum, Uganda. Thank you so much for coming, Robert.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure.
Keep doing what you do. Until next time, you will have greater insight. I've been Kim Chadorin taking you through, and see you next time.
Smart 24, driving business.